Well, the players in the NFL might be on vacation, but that does not mean a single thing to us. The NFC West Huddle keeps rolling along as we are joined by our experts from around the division. I'm Aaron Lavine in Seattle, joined by Richard Sines in Phoenix, Keshan Ward in San Francisco. I know Alyssa teased it last week, but it's going to be next week when Los Angeles starts representing on here again, so we look forward to that. But guys, we've mentioned the over-under win totals for the upcoming seasons in weeks past. Right now, depending on where you look, the Niners over-under is about 10.5 wins. The Rams are around 10 wins. The Cardinals are at 8.5 wins, and the Seahawks are at 8 or 8.5, depending on where you look. What would be your top two locks when it comes to those win totals, over or under? Richard, we'll start with you.
Well, my top two is going to be our team here in Arizona and your team over there in Seattle, Aaron. I think the Cardinals are going to get over 8.5 wins. They seem to be projecting in that direction. You know, the last 2 years under head coach Jonathan Gannon, they've improved their win total. 8 wins last year. Now they're going to make that next step. They've improved their defense. So I'm taking the over on 8.5 wins and the under on 8 wins for the Seattle Seahawks because if Geno Smith wasn't that guy, Sam Darnold is just a guy. Right, and he's just a guy that's not going to get you close to double-digit wins, especially when you lose a wide receiver like DK Metcalf. So too many changes there in Seattle, so I'm taking the under for the Seahawks because your quarterback's just a guy. And, of course, the Cardinals over, and, of course, they might have the MVP coming out of that division in Kyler Murray. But that's for the later questions. But, yeah, I'm taking Seattle under, Arizona over.
Shots have been fired early on in the show, and I'm going to get back to you in just 1 second, Richard. But I will go to Keshan before I answer you directly. Keshan, what are your top two locks on over and unders, and why?
Aaron, my top two locks are going to be the Niners and Rams having 10 wins or more. I mean, simply, I keep saying it's like a broken record at this point. The Niners have the easiest schedule since the 2015 Atlanta Falcons. But then also the Rams, in my opinion, I don't know if he's not going to hear this, but they're the best team in the division. I just think that they're a throwaway or a drive away from, being the soon-to-be Super Bowl champs out of Philadelphia Eagles. But we're talking about the Niners. I just think that, they have such an easier pathway to have, 10 wins or more. And I just think that they're going to be able to benefit from that, also having more healthy players this year, hopefully, crossing our fingers. We don't need no more injury with the Niners. But, yeah, I just think that, when you look at their schedule, they're playing the NFC South, the AFC South, two divisions don't really have a lot of winners that come out of there, usually one division winner each year in, year out. And I think when you look at the Rams, they're going to be playing, it's going to be harder, playing the Eagles, the Ravens, the Lions. But I still think they're a pretty good team in the NFL, so I think the Niners and Rams will have 10 or more wins. So I'm taking over with those two.
Okay, and Richard, I'm going to come back to you first right here and answer me this question. How many times in the last 15 years have the Seahawks had fewer than 8 wins in the season?
Yeah, not many. But they never had this many changes, and they never had Sam Darnold as their quarterback.
Okay. The answer to you is one time, and it was a fluke season, and now we have 17 games, not 16 games. So, listen, you guys already know what my top lock is, and it's going to be completely contrary to Richard here, because to me, it's a no-brainer. I am taking the Seahawks over 8 wins in a heartbeat. I mean, the defense was already good. It's going to be even better, possibly top 5 under Mike McDonald. And again, it just feels like we've got insider information around here because the overwhelming consensus around the country, led by Richard Sines in Phoenix, is no Geno Smith, no DK Metcalf, a new offensive coordinator. The Seahawks have no identity on offense. But here's the thing. Their biggest issue on offense has been their offensive line and their inability to effectively run the football. And that's exactly the major emphasis with this new offensive coordinator and offensive line coach. Last year's coordinator, Ryan Grubb, relied way too much on the passing game, which put undue stress on the offensive line, which also put undue stress on Geno Smith. With an improved O-line, one that wins in the running game, I like this offense to function even better than it did before. And they have veteran pieces to get it done at those main positions, from Sam Darnold to Cooper Kupp to JSN. And whether or not Ken Walker is still on the team come September, I think Zach Charbonnet is going to be a star in this new-look offense. So anyway, I've said I love the Seahawks to win this division at 5 or 6 to 1. contrary to most people's opinions. I also love the over 8 wins this season. As for my second pick, I will take the Niners over 10.5 wins begrudgingly, and not because I think they're going to be very good this season, but because that schedule, it reads like a bakery menu. Cupcake after cupcake after cupcake, especially down the stretch. So I say they do get to 11 wins. The Rams and Cardinals, I think, are priced just about right. So that's my shot right back to you, Richard. I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
I'm writing it down in my diary.
I'm glad you
Aaron
are.
Lavine says the Seattle Seahawks will win the Super Bowl and go undefeated, right? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, that's not what I said. But I'm glad you said that just in case. And you could probably get even bigger money on that if you want to put a couple dollars down on the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl this upcoming season. Next topic. Who is your favorite player to interview on your team, past or present, and why? And if you have one, give me your favorite interview moment with a player or coach, past or present. Keshan, we'll start with you.
Well, guys, I have some bad news. So I've been here at KTVU Fox 2 in the Bay Area since 2023 in September. So down here, Bailey O'Carroll and Joe Fonzie, they get first dibs on all the practices and covering the game. So I have not had the opportunity to interview anybody in the Niners since I got down here. But I will say I had a chance to interview Richard Sherman and Mike McGlinchey in 2020, but I wasn't with this station. It was when I was with the newspaper down here. But I don't really count that because I asked them one question each. Not the best interview. It was, cool talking to them, but I don't count that. So I'm going to give you my best interview I ever had in my history or, my career being here or just being in the Bay Area in general. It was with a Raiders all-time great, Jim Plunkett. I went down to his house, do a sit-down interview, got to talk to him about winning those 2 Super Bowls against the Eagles and Redskins, his trials we went through in New England, and also win a Heisman at Stanford. It was pretty cool seeing those trophies, Super Bowl rings in person. So that was definitely my best interview I ever had with an athlete here in the Bay Area.
Well, when 66% of the people that you just mentioned are Stanford alum, from Richard Sherman to Jim Plunkett, you're going to get bonus points from me. So I appreciate that, and I'm glad that that interview with Jim Plunkett was a fantastic one and a memorable one as well. I will go next. My favorite Seahawks player to interview of all time was Seattle's own Nate Burleson, because I will always boast he got his start on our Sunday night sports show. We had a segment called Up Late with Nate on Q It Up Sports on Sunday nights. He said he wanted to get into TV after his career, so while he was playing, we gave him the opportunity, and he has clearly run away with it the rest of the way. I mean, now he's a national personality on CBS Mornings and Nickelodeon. You see him on NFL Today as well. And if you think he's a good dresser now, he started that during his playing days here in Seattle. There wasn't a Seahawks postgame show back in 2007 or 2008 where I didn't make a comment on his postgame attire. Always dressed to the nines. He was my favorite person to interview because he's just an amazing personality. He always kept it real. As for the best interview moment, this was part of a scrum interview, but it came back in 2009. It was the Seahawks' first time they wore sponsored patches on their practice jerseys, and the patches said the word Bing, because Microsoft had just completed a multi-million-dollar partnership with the team. So after practice, Will Herring, I believe a tight end on that team, or I think it was either a tight end or a linebacker. I got to go back and look. He comes over, and we asked him, "Hey, Will, what do you think about the new patches on your jerseys that say Bing?" And he goes, "Yeah, I like them. They're pretty cool. I'm not sure what Bing is. I'm going to have to Google it." And it was the best soundbite we have ever not aired, because the PR team heard about that and begged us not to run the quote because they were worried about backlash from Microsoft. Fortunately, I was able to tell that story a couple of years ago at a sports awards event, but still perfect timing, perfect reaction. I don't know what Bing is. I'm going to have to Google it. Richard, how about your favorite player to interview, and maybe favorite interview moment if you have one?
That was a great story, I got to admit. And hey, I like the sound of that show, Up Late with Nate. That's pretty cool. That's catchy. And before I even talk about my interview, I want to go back to Keshan's interview. Can we get Jim Plunkett in the Hall of Fame? What is going on with Jim Plunkett not being in the Hall of Fame? He's one of only 4 guys in the history of the National Football League to win the Heisman and the Super Bowl MVP. Like, what more do you want from this guy? I just cannot believe he's not in the NFL Hall of Fame. Am I the only one thinking this here?
No.
Richard, Richard, what was the situation? I was telling him this in person. I'm like, I don't want to, put this into the world. I'm big on whatever you speak, it comes to existence. But it's like, man, you got to pass away for them to finally put you in. Like, I hate to say that, but he kind of laughed. He was like, I thought the same thing, because it seemed like when people are, finally gone from the planet Earth, they like, okay, finally put them in there. But it shouldn't come to that. Celebrate while he's here on this planet, so he could, witness in person. His wife Kathy said the same thing. That's the kind of last thing he wants in his life, just to get into the Hall of Fame and just finally get that gold jacket. I mean, we all feel the same way down here.
Yeah, and he deserves it. So maybe we should just fake his death, and then they'll put him in like, just kidding. He's really alive anyway. That way we can get him in while he's alive. But hey, my story is I want to talk about another quarterback in Kurt Warner. When Kurt Warner was here with the Arizona Cardinals, this was back when I used to travel with the team and would go on the team chartered, on the team bus, and they were playing the St. Louis Rams. This is how long ago it was, right? And we have 4 buses, right, that leave the hotel. And the media is always on the 4th bus. The players are on the early buses. Well, this particular morning, Kurt Warner's on our bus. He must have missed the earlier buses. He's on the media bus. So he's sitting up in front. I sit right behind him. And we get there to the Edwards-Jones Dome, and the employees of the Edwards-Jones Dome in St. Louis found out he was on that bus, and they wanted to honor him because they loved him of what he did for the St. Louis Rams. And they made like a human tunnel, a row of people on each side. And as soon as he got off the bus, I was right behind him, and everybody just started clapping in honor of him. And I got moved. It wasn't even for me. I was just behind him. And it was such a cool moment, like one of those moments that we get in this business where there's no cameras around, and we get to experience something that most people will never have the opportunity to experience. And I just remember he was such a class act. He shook everyone's hand. And I looked at the first guy, and he goes, I'll always cheer for Kurt Warner. I hope he just doesn't kill us today. And sure enough, he ripped the Rams apart. And I got to interview him about that moment and the game afterwards. And he was one of my favorites because win or lose, he was always there. He always answered every question with class. And they don't make him like Kurt Warner, that's for sure. He's one of the best, if not the best.
So did you get to go through that employee tunnel also where they were all clapping for him because you were right behind him? Or did it just kind of like close up right after him and then you were left with nothing?
No, I was right behind him, bowing, high-fiving. I was living it up. Well, I was right there, baby.
That's a fantastic scene, and I love to hear that about Kurt Warner going back to St. Louis. And I do feel for the people of St. Louis who no longer have a team, having lost a team here in Seattle to a city that just won a championship. Elsewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah. Up next, is there anything about your team's training camp or preseason schedule that stands out to you this season? I will go first with this one. Let's be honest, there's very little intriguing about preseason games in general, unless you want to consider it a glorified practice. I'm fully in favor of cutting the preseason to just 2 games and adding a regular season game, which I know the players are not necessarily in favor of, but we'll keep an eye on that. But the fact that Pete Carroll is coming back to Seattle in the preseason opener with the Raiders, that's going to be pretty fun. Everybody loves Pete. He stepped down gracefully, as gracefully as he possibly could have here in Seattle, given the circumstances. We know he did not want to resign as head coach. And now that he's got another chance with the Raiders, I don't think there's a single fan in Seattle rooting against him this upcoming season, especially because they're in the other conference. The Seahawks and the Raiders don't play each other during the regular season, so we can kind of be fans from a distance. And then also for fans who want to make the trek to Green Bay for the only preseason game on the road for the Seahawks, that is always a special trip if you have not been to Lambeau Field because of all the history there. And the Seahawks will also be doing joint practices with the Packers before that game, similar to what they did with the Tennessee Titans last year. So that's kind of cool as well as we look toward the preseason. Richard, you're next. Anything interesting about your preseason in Arizona this year?
Well, the cool thing about the preseason and training camp for the Arizona Cardinals is they have it at the stadium, which is kind of cool because fans can go in and they're in the AC. Before, it was up in Flagstaff and you have to drive up north to Flagstaff, which was nice. It's really pretty up there, nice and cool. But this gives fans a chance to go inside the State Farm Stadium and kind of experience what it's like. Even if you don't have the money to go on game day, it's open to the public. It's free. You can go, and then they get to watch. Because when you think about it, that stadium is one of its kind in North America, where it has a retractable roof and a natural grass field that rolls in and out. So the field is like on a big brownie dish with little like tank tires underneath it that rolls it in and out, so people get to watch it come in and they watch it roll out at the end of practice. So that's pretty cool. That's the only thing that makes it different than most NFL training camps and preseasons.
Yeah, that is really cool. And how about you, Keshan? What stands out to you about the Niners preseason or training camp?
Well, first of all, I want to apologize to Miss Plunkett. Her name is Jerry, not Kathy. I don't want people in the comments, killing me about that. So, sorry, Jerry Plunkett, not Kathy. But anyway, back to your question, Aaron. The most intriguing thing to me, I think most Niner fans want to say, oh, I can't wait to play the Raiders. No, I'm not going to count that. That's too easy. I'm going to go a different route. The most intriguing thing about the Niners preseason coming up is when they face the Denver Broncos, a joint practice with them down in Denver. Here's why. There's a couple of former 49ers, who won a Super Bowl with the Niners back in the day. Talanoa Hufanga, Dre Greenlaw. It's pretty fun seeing them going against, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Brock Purdy, and then even the trenches with Mike McGlinchey. Who thought I'd say Mike McGlinchey name twice on this show? Nobody saw it in the bingo card. But Mike McGlinchey playing against Nick Bosa, that's going to be a pretty fun matchup. And then also, two, offensive-minded head coaches and Sean Payton and Kyle Shanahan going head-to-head. I mean, let's be honest. The joint practices are arguably better than the actual preseason games. So seeing the ones for the Niners going against the ones against the Broncos, that's going to be a sight to see. So, yeah, I cannot wait to see that this upcoming preseason.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun as well. Our fourth topic, every year we see colleges start their Heisman campaigns for certain players before the season even starts. So why don't we all start our own MVP campaign for a player on our team in our city right now? Who would you get behind that has the best chance to contend for league MVP and why? Richard, we'll start with you.
Well, I'm going to go with Kyler Murray because he was actually in the conversation last year when the Cardinals got off to a great start at 6-4. And I'm going to double up here because speaking of the Heisman, we're going to have the Heisman here in Arizona as well, and Sam Levitt, the ASU quarterback. So has that ever happened where one city has both the Heisman Trophy winner and the NFL MVP at the same time? Because Sam Levitt and ASU and Kenny Dillingham, those guys are on fire. Big 12 champs last year. They're looking to pick up where they left off. And so Sam Levitt's going to be the Heisman, and Kyler Murray's going to be the league MVP because this time the Cardinals, when they get off to the good start, they're going to finish the job and not go 2-7 or 2-5 with 2 losses to the Seattle Seahawks and a loss to the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, I'm still a little heartbroken over that. But, hey, that's what happens. But this year, I think that it could be the first time in ever, if not in a while, we see the Heisman Trophy winner and the league MVP from the same city.
Yeah, would be an incredible double right there. And we will have to go back and look to see if that has ever happened before. Keshan, you're next. Which Niner are you already touting for league MVP this year?
Well, since it's a quarterback award, it's got to be Brock Purdy. I don't know how many times I got to say it, but Purdy's going against a pretty easy slate of schedule, playing a bunch of losers in the AFC South and NFC South. So, he should have at least 35 touchdowns and 4,000 yards passing or more. I don't see why that can't be a problem. More money, more problems, as I say every week. But no, in all seriousness, it should be Purdy. Purdy, back in 2023, when he has all his players around him, he was, going against head-to-head with Lamar Jackson until he had that, really bad game on Monday Night Football against the Baltimore Ravens, threw 3 or 4 interceptions or more. But no, Purdy should come back this upcoming season. He just got paid. This is time to really shine to showcase why he's a top 10 or top 5 quarterback in the NFL. And I think this is the year he could really be in a conversation for most valuable player.
And Keshan, you really touched on it just now because it is a quarterback award. Nobody outside of the quarterback position has won league MVP, I believe, since Adrian Peterson in 2012. It's been 13 years at this point.
Yeah, yep.
That's crazy. So I will preface this by saying, in terms of my answer, I don't think the Seahawks have a serious league MVP contender this season because Sam Darnold would be your best bet. We really don't know how he's going to function with this new team. There's also an adjustment period there as well. I'm not knocking him, and I feel like they're still going to win more than 8 games, as I mentioned at the beginning of the year, but at the beginning of the show. But I don't think that he is going to be a legitimate contender for MVP. So instead, I'm going to shoot for the moon, and I'm going to say that Devin Witherspoon will be the first defensive NFL MVP since Lawrence Taylor in 1986. It's been 39 years since a defensive guy won that award. And it's amazing because Aaron Donald didn't win it. Ray Lewis never won it. Kind of crazy to think. But kind of keep an eye on Devin Witherspoon this season. This guy's going to be all over the field in Mike McDonald's defense. It's his third year in this defense. He's going to be coming out on blitzes. He's a shutdown corner. Also hard to believe he's only had one career interception so far, but it was that 97-yard pick six last season. So I think Witherspoon ends up with 6 interceptions this season. I think he also finishes with 5 or more sacks and a few forced fumbles as well. Regardless of MVP talk or not, this is the season that Witherspoon, I believe, becomes a star outside of Seattle. So keep an eye on him for that. Okay, finally, guys, Taylor Swift surprised Travis Kelce with a performance at the opening night of his tight end university camp in Nashville this week. She sang her song, Shake It Off. It begs the question, what is your favorite Taylor Swift song? Keshan, I know you've been waiting months for a question like this. What do you think?
Aaron, I can't lie to you, man. I wouldn't be able to name one Taylor Swift song. So when I saw the question, I said, all right, I'm gonna pick the best moment. I can't lie. But hear me out. I'm gonna give you the best Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce moment. It was at the Super Bowl 58 when they beat the Eagles. No, sorry, they beat the Niners. When they came back, and I think Taylor and Travis came in the middle of the field and embraced each other. It's a cute moment for all social media, taking pictures of them. That was, a moment people eat up for the rest of their lives, seeing Kelce and Swift. All the Swifties love that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's probably the best moment between Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce.
How many Grammys, American Music Awards, other awards has Taylor Swift won? And you can't name a single song?
And she wrote these songs herself, Keshan. She's a true talent.
I can't lie to y'all, man. I can't lie.
I'm going to give you 1 week, and when we introduce our new friend from Los Angeles, that's going to be the first question that I ask you, so you can tell the whole group to look up on Google or something and figure out which song you like the best. I will go next.
All right, I'll do some research.
Please do. I want you singing next week also. One of the reasons I think Taylor Swift, it's to my point, apparently not to Keshan's point, but I think she's been so successful is because her songs are so catchy. Swifties will talk about the lyrics and the meaning of her words, and that's great, and I think that's important as well. But at the end of the day, this is pop music. You get a chorus or a verse in your head, and it just doesn't go away. And I feel like Taylor Swift is the queen of that. So I personally like You Belong With Me. And her also, I also like her duet with Brandon Urie of Panic at the Disco. I think it's called Me. But if we want a local football tie-in, I will go there. I'll never forget former Seahawks receiver Golden Tate. He was at a rookie trading card photo shoot in Los Angeles, and he was singing Love Story a cappella. He was a huge Taylor Swift fan all the way back in 2010. So I can't listen to that song without thinking of Golden embarrassing himself on camera singing about Romeo and Juliet. So I'm going to go with that one as my favorite song as it pertains to former Seahawks singing them at one point in their career. Richard, we're giving you a lot of content for your diary or burn book, whatever you want to call it this week. What's your favorite Taylor Swift song and why?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the diary because when I read the question, I thought it was a joke. I wrote it down in my diary. I laughed about it later that night, But then I actually wrote a letter to you guys because I thought about it, and this is what the letter says. It says, "It's okay, guys. You need to calm down. Let's make this a love story, okay? Because never in my wildest dreams that I think would be talking about Travis Kelce's lover. I know this is a delicate topic. Maybe I'll have an answer in August, but don't blame me because look what you made me do." Now, Aaron, I like your style. And yes, the Cards missed the playoffs, so I can do this with a broken heart because they will shake it off, and Kyler will be the anti-hero. Now, it's no secret. This has been a cruel summer. I don't know about this, but I don't want to live forever, right? But if I do, I'll be an old man in a cardigan sweater with a blank space in my head trying to think of an answer of this question.
That was amazing. The only thing that would have been better is had you been wearing that cardigan sweater on air. Nice job, Richard. This question, clearly the reason I'm most disappointed our new guest from Los Angeles could not join us this week. But he will be here to join us next week, we think. That is going to do it for us, for Keshan Ward in San Francisco and Richard Sines in Phoenix. I'm Aaron Lavine in Seattle. Thanks for joining us for this disco... What does he call it? Disco, what do you call those things? When you go back, the documentary, the retrospective of Taylor Swift's entire career, thanks to Richard just now. We will see you on the discography. There you go. I'll see you on the stream next week.
I got blank space in here all the time. Trust me. There's a lot of blank spaces in my head.
Yeah, clearly mine too.